Hey, welcome to 8 Great Minutes. This is my friend Luke Bruns.
Glad to be here.
Hey, man. Um, so people might see you around, in the community, at church, at Northern stuff, but tell us a little bit about where is home for you? Like, where did you grow up?
Yeah, I grew up on a farm right in between Hecla and Frederick, almost right in the middle. And my dad, for the longest time of his career, was an aerial spray pilot. So my job growing up was to fill him up with water, chemical, wash his windows, fill him with gas, and he'd land for about 2 minutes, and then I'd fill him up with everything, and he'd take back off. And that was my job. And later on in life, he got into the farming side. So then I ended up driving a tractor and doing all that fun stuff, for
Did you
my
ever
high
go
school
flying
years.
with him?
Yeah. As I've gotten older, I've appreciated that more. I didn't love it younger, but now he's got a few planes, non-spray planes that we kind of dink around in. He'll come into Aberdeen. He's got a set of floats on one of them, so he flies out to Picker Lake and just lands on the lake and pulls it up to the dock, and it's pretty cool.
That's so cool. I didn't floats on a plane. Like, I mean, even that anyway, we could talk more about that, but
Yeah,
I know sports were a big part of your life growing up. Tell us a
yeah.
little bit about kind of your sport journey alongside school.
Yeah. So first, I mean, I can't be more thankful of the life I got to grow up in. I mean, I was extremely blessed with just great family, both parents, three older siblings, brother that's 9 years older, a sister 6 years older, sister 4 years older. They were always in athletics. My two older sisters played college basketball before me, and so I just kind of got that love from sports from them. And I mean, I was a competitive kid since I was in third grade. My mom actually drove me into Aberdeen in third grade because we didn't have basketball yet. So she drove me in Aberdeen, put me on the OM Tiffany team. So technically, I played for OM Tiffany for 2 years until Hecla had sports, and um, just always really liked the competitive side of sports, and we might get into more questions, but the benefit that I probably didn't think of at the time, but is just that team, that leadership skills that you build, the team, the sense of something bigger than just you. Like those are all things that came out of it, but weren't necessarily the reasons I was in it. But
Mhm.
um, big
I mean, you
sports
you
guy.
had these older siblings that were, doing athletics too, and I'm sure you watched them and got to, do backyard ball with them and all that kind of stuff. How did you figure out what sport you were passionate about? I mean, you could have done lots of different things.
Yeah, I don't know. Basketball's just always been the drive. I played football, I played baseball for a while, but it was just we're a basketball family. I don't know. My sisters, that was their sport. They never even played volleyball. They were track and basketball, and I don't know if it was because of that, but I just always gravitated toward basketball too, and um, it's probably the one we have the most ability in. But
Well, and I have none, so I'm just going to respect you and appreciate that you can play. Tell me a little bit about what happened after high school, with your sports and kind of life and
yeah, and if we're talking to a group of high school students, a very big decision in your life is what's the next step? Is college for me? Is a 4-year college for me? Do I want to go straight into a trade and go to a tech school, which is an extremely growing popularity? And if you know what you're going to go into, that's a great option. And then deciding which institution to go to. So that was a big decision for me. Um, I definitely geared mine more around basketball than academics, and I'm not saying that's the way to do it. But there's a lot of great institutions out there, and that just happened to be where I found my first university, and that was Black Hills State, and that's where my oldest sister went and played basketball. So I had some relationships out there. Loved Spearfish. In fact, my sister that played there still lives in Sundance, Wyoming, right by Spearfish. So Paul Sather, who a lot of people might remember, is a longtime coach of Northern State recently. He had just gotten the job out there, and I was being recruited by the old coach, and so he kind of just kept recruiting who was being recruited. And he had mentioned in a recruiting visit that he was like, I only got this small scholarship to give out, and he was thinking like I might be like not like that, and I was like, you're gonna give me like even that little bit, like I would do this for free. So like, yeah, like I just want on the team. So I got a very small scholarship, but but the invitation to be on a college basketball team at the time, it was an NAIA level, like a Dakota State, Dakota Wesleyan type level. And so I went out there and I had 2.5 of some of the most fantastic years. And jumping forward, I made great relationships on my 2.5 years on that basketball team. And some I've kept in touch with regularly, some I haven't. But the cool thing about this Zoom and in my profession, I've always been able to do things like this, but I have never really taken full advantage. And when Zoom was going so well for me, I reached out to 4 teammates that I had in 2005 and 2006 that haven't necessarily kept up with them besides a hey on Facebook. And I reached out to them. They live in Maryland, Utah, Colorado, Arkansas. I think that was it. And I got to meet with all of them like this. And now I'm helping them on the financial planning side, but now I'm texting them all regularly. The Utah guy loves his smoker, and he teaches me all about how he's smoking up different meats. And we text on a daily basis now. And he's someone that I had lost touch with, really. And so this technology, just embracing it, has gotten my old relationships back from the Black Hill State days back to being relationships. And maybe I won't see them in person very much moving forward, but with Zoom and just connecting again, it's been a real blessing on that.
Part of what I see with you that you have a gift with is building relationships. And I feel like that's a part of our faith too, is the relationship side of things. I mean, church is the people. It's not a building, it's not just a place you go, it's a relationship that you have with people. I mean, have there been some you talk about coaching, you talk about leadership, you talk about mentoring, those are all, you can bring those into faith, you can bring those into life. I mean, we all need mentors no matter what job you work. We all need a mentor. Have there been mentors or relationships that have really grounded you or been important to you, whether it's related to your faith or work or somewhere in there?
Yeah, it's a great segue into the mentorship because Derek Dinger, who is a former member of Bethlehem, he's from Hecla as well. His sister was in my grade. We were 2 of the 5 people in my grade. Actually, every one of our siblings has been in the same grade of our 4 siblings. So like our families have always been connected. So lifelong family friend. And when I was going to finishing my last 2 years of playing college basketball at Presentation College in town, he would just invite me over for supper. We called it New Food Mondays. And we had this lifelong relationship, and he'd bring his sister, that was my classmate in high school, in from Britain. She would drive in from Britain, and I would come over on every Monday. He had maybe 1, maybe 2 young kids at the time, but it would be somebody's turn, and we'd find a new food, and we'd all make it together and have supper. There was no agenda. It was just a couple college students, like they were friends. Let's just have them over for supper one night a week. And we did that for a while. And at one point, Derek finally just said, like, I was going into my senior year, the summer, and he said, "What are you doing for an internship?" I was like, "Well, I actually need one. I'm in business. I have not a single clue. I need to figure it out." And he just brought up he was the managing director of Northwestern Mutual at the time. And he said, "We have an internship program. It's to test out being a financial planner, see if you like it." And I was honestly, I don't even remember interviewing. I just said, "Well, I got nothing else to do, and I like you, so sure." So I just did it. And 11 years later, I'm with the same company. I am now the managing director. I replaced him when he got a promotion and moved to Fargo, but I got to spend 8 years with him as my mentor professionally and personally, because I mean, he had a college kid, a family friend, college kid over for supper one night a week just because, and he came to my basketball games because he knew me. And he built the relationship without an agenda of like, okay, I'm gonna work on this guy for a year and then I'm gonna get him to work for me. And it wasn't anything about that. And so that relationship, and then him grooming me essentially and teaching me things, not only professionally but mainly personally. He would be a guy that anyone would say, like, "What do you think when you think Derek Dinger?" Like the first word you would think of is caring. He is a very caring individual. He cares more about others than himself. And it's not just words, it's actions and just the things he does for other people. And getting to be around him very closely for 8 years, you are the people you hang out with, and you hang out with people like that. And whether that was my natural tendency or not, I'd like to think it was, but like far from where I should have been at the time. and just growing 8 years by being around him, I naturally just became more of a person that cared about relationships and team building and reaching out to other people and saying hi and being there for them. And it just becomes natural because I was just around that environment. So,
Hmm.
you know, you are with like the people you hang out with.
That is so huge. You are like the people who you hang out with. And I think like, that's kind of why we do the mentor program, even as part of confirmation, is we try to put people who are not our own kin or blood relative into our life so that we have somebody that cares about us in a way that can encourage us, not because they have to, but because they see the value in you. Like Derek sees the value in you just for who you are, and at church we would say, well, everyone is a child of God. Everyone is created with gifts, and that becomes such an important kind of foundation for who we are. So that's so huge. Thank you for sharing that story about Derek, because I think
Yeah.
it's important for us to identify, why is this person so invested in my future? Like, why do they actually care? Because they do.
Yeah.
you know
And,
um
and
we already
Derek, the
blew through.
last
Yeah.
thing I'll say on that is, we should all have a mission statement. Like, why are we who we are? Like, what drives us? We should have a couple core values, right? Well, Derek's mission statement for his profession and his personal life is to positively impact every life he touches. So whether that's saying hi to a person on the street, holding the door for somebody, like, just, it can be the simplest of gestures, but I mean, talk about just a life motto that we can all go by. So, um, that's him.
That's huge. I mean, and I sometimes it's like, well, do we have to come up with some sort of thing? Like, if you actually come up with a phrase or something that's important to you, that can be something that guides your life.
Yeah.
So that's um so here's my two bonus questions, because we've already blown through 8 minutes, if you can believe that.
Yeah.
um
Geez. I'm a talker. I can
no,
keep
that's
going.
okay. That's um you know there's obviously high school students who are listening to this. What would be your encouragement to them, given all that's kind of going on in the world and just they're, unsure of stuff? And, what's your encouragement for them?
I do think it's relying on those relationships, and sometimes, I don't know, sometimes we have those negative thoughts or feeling alone and things like that. But whether it's through the church or your friends, like, we always have that person that cares about us, that would take the time and just talk with us or come hang out. And I just don't think we should be shy around leaning on those things and using those things, and also be the person that's proactive, letting other people know you're there for them, and not being afraid to tell someone that you love them, or just, hey, I care about you, or just kind of being vulnerable a little bit like that. And so, be the person that's proactive, saying you're there for other people, but just know people are there for you too, and take advantage of it. But work on those deep relationships with people, and a text here and there saying, hey, I was thinking about you, hope all is well. I mean, just that can go a long way. You never know what people are struggling with in their daily life, and they could be having a bad day, and you say, hey, I was thinking about you, hope all is well. Could be like, wow, somebody's thinking about me, so just things like that.
You'd never understand an impact from something so small. We think it's so small, could make a huge impact in someone else's life. So thank you for that. That's so so good. And I want to say thank you too, Luke, as well, because last year, maybe around this, well, it was in the fall, but Luke actually led a small group of high school students, and he had an event kind of in the gym where it was some hoops, it was some devotions. He brought in some Northern players with him, and maybe sometime down the road, whenever that might be, Luke might revive that again. And I just encourage you to take advantage of that. So look for Luke Abound in the community. And the last bonus question is who is your basketball team? We all got to know, who's your team?
What level?
Professional, NBA.
Okay, so that's easy. That's the Oklahoma City Thunder. No question about it. Was a Sonics fan in the mid '90s when they had Kemp and Peyton. Which, if you're high school students, you might not know who those are. Google them, the Rain Man and the glove, and you will see some of the sweetest alley oops, athletic talent. So as a Sonics fan, they moved to Oklahoma City. Thunder fan, and for anyone listening that is a LeBron James fan, don't get me wrong. I think that guy is great. I respect him. But I'm a team fan. Russell Westbrook left, and he's probably my favorite player of all time. but I'm not a Rockets fan now. I'm a Thunder fan, and I wish them well, but I'm a team guy, and I ride it through. So Thunder all the way.
Appreciate you, Luke. Thanks for the time today.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, Kevin.